Welcome to the Be Ready podcast, a space for parent, community, and classroom educators to come, learn, and share so that children are strong academically and that they develop into successful, thriving adults. Here are your hosts, and welcome to the conversation.
Hey, friends.
Hey.
So I love that we're on here saying, hey, like we have not had a whole pre-episode before the episode, like a whole 45-minute conversation, catching up.
We had to.
I know.
I'm not supposed to tell them we did that.
I know, but it was fun. Okay, so it's April. We are wrapping up the school year. So what have you learned about yourself this school year? About yourself, about your students, about your kid? How has the school year been for y'all?
School year's been rough for me. Just because being in administration, when I tell you like they ran us ragged this year, but then also on the parent side of it, it's been rough also because just like you being in administration, you see so much great teaching, but you see so much not so great teaching. And on the parent side, it's been really tough for me to maintain my position as a parent educator. So it's been a little tough.
Yeah. I'm sure that's really hard for you as an administrator. So I haven't been in the classroom as an active teacher for probably like 8 years now. But it's also kind of like once an educator, always an educator, because I always have that perspective. We toured a school recently thinking about where to send my son next year. And after the tour, I pulled the tour guide to the side and was like, hey, I want to ask you some questions that I really don't want to ask you in front of all these other parents. Because I also really need you to like tell me the truth. And I was telling her the reason why I'm asking you is because I used to be an educator. So I know me. I know that if I don't feel like things are going how I think they need to be in the classroom, like I'm looking at it with a different eye and I'm all up in your business. And I don't want to do that.
Yeah, it is very hard, especially because I don't want my kids' teachers to feel like I'm in there evaluating them. But as I can't take the knowledge out of my head. So like, I know what I know already. So this year I've just had to resign myself to maintain that line and maintain my position as a parent. But what that has done for me is it has caused me to become the teacher at home. So I have multiple jobs. Multiple full-time jobs. So it's been
what about you, Jania? I feel like you have the greatest mom spread in age range than we do. So what's that like?
It's a wild time. So I think this makes me think about the conversation we had at the beginning of the school year where we were all like super excited about all of the changes that were coming. Did I envision them being how they are? No, absolutely not. Because I think middle school, while it is like its own beast, it's also now we've got all of these like hormones and like sometimes I look at my oldest and I'm like, who are you? Like, this is not the kid that we had last year. So I think that's like been really interesting, and it's also really interesting to get like a front row to that. I'm super grateful for being able to watch it, but it's also kind of like jarring a little bit too of like, oh, I'm seeing you act as a middle school adolescent, and I know lots of things about children and children development, but it's like, oh, this is my child. And like, I had to be like, oh, your prefrontal cortex is not developed. Like that, that's what's going on right now. But in my mom heart, I want to be like, what do you mean? I like taught you better than this, or like, I've shown you this, or I asked you not to do this or that, and those kind of things. But it is just like children. It is kid life. So I think that's like interesting. And then watching Austin just kind of develop more into like who he is and his unapologeticness about all of the things that he loves. Like homeboy will wear a cowboy hat and cowboy boots to school on a random Tuesday. And then the next day he's like, oh, I want to wear my football like jersey. And I'm like, okay, dude, like live your life. And so, yeah, that's been really interesting to watch. It's been interesting to watch Austin also pick up some middle school habits and be like, this is because you have a middle school brother and this is going to drive me crazy a little bit. But it's okay. We'll figure it out. So yeah, I think this year has definitely been tough because of all of the transitioning that happened. But I think that also speaks to like resilience as well. Like we've figured out how we keep moving and how we navigate and pivot when we need to. Everything hasn't been great, but there's been a lot of really good things, and it's been a growth experience for everybody in our house.
I feel like you are the perfect person for this entire experience for like me to learn from because of like your social work and social emotional well-being of the child background. So I am looking forward to learning from you because
Oh yeah,
this 7-year-old is going on 17 right now, and baby,
yeah. Just wait till you get up there and you're like, oh, this is different now.
different.
I feel like with the football jersey and the cowboy boots, Austin is like the best of Sanford.
Oh yeah. He is. He definitely is.
Oh
yep.
man,
That's that guy. He's that guy. He's so cool, but it is funny to watch, and then how he interacts with his brother, but it's cool. Yeah.
Funny. Oh, that's funny. What about you, DeShawn?
I think this school year has been a big learning experience, I think, for me as a parent. Just like now that Cam is in first grade, I didn't like, I'm having academic concerns that I didn't have before, that are kind of like fed by some classroom concerns. Like his teacher is great, but like I have concerns about like some of the other kids in the class and like their behaviors and how is that impacting the academics. And so just like wondering, is my kid on track? Is my kid behind? What do I need to see and know from a teacher to be comfortable with like where they are? So just learning about how as a parent to navigate that school space. Because I don't want to be stressed about it. I don't want to pay extra money if I don't have to like get my kid tutoring. Like that's not just money, it's also time. Then it's home effort. So like, how do you figure out like where your kid is in the classroom? That has been a challenge. You know, we started off the year with like a lot of like social challenges, him just like finding his place among the group. And then there's been some behaviors that are coming home and I'm like, homeboy, not in this house. So just like figuring out like who he is academically and socially has been like, it's first grade. So I'm seeing more of that obviously than what I saw before. And I'm sure I'll continue to see even more and more, but just like learning who he is, but also figuring out like how I'm going to respond to it has been the challenging part. Like, I don't want to be the freak out mom and be like messaging the teacher all the time, but I also don't want to let things slide because it's like, oh, not that big of a deal, and then it causes a major problem down the road. So just trying to like navigate all that stuff. I think it's been a learning year for me more so than anybody else, I think.
Yeah, I think that's something really good that you bring up though, because as parents, especially this time of year, right? We're about to end the school year and go to another grade, the hopes, right? Or go into summer. So like thinking about like retention and graduation, you know, in the upper grades or not. What kinds of things do we need to think about, like in regards to our kids' academics at this time of year? And it's a lot.
Yeah, I think that's like a huge question, right? And I think even of not being in the classroom, like knowing what my child is bringing home for homework, making sure that I'm like looking at those 9 weeks grades, like checking into Skyward every once in a while to see kind of like, hey, where are you? And then luckily, like my oldest is old enough to have that conversation, right? I'm not sure that like your first grader can do that, right, DeShawn? But I can look in and say like, hey, where is this assignment? What's going on? But we send lots of emails to teachers and just following them. And I think it's a piece of holding us accountable, holding the teacher accountable, but also holding my student accountable. Of like, it doesn't have to be like, we're not popping off in the email, but hey, I noticed these grades in Skyward didn't have or weren't scored. So what does that mean? Like, what do we need to do? Like, where are we? And I think that even like it is a responsibility of the educator too, to be able to have those conversations with parents. Like, it shouldn't be the 4th 9 weeks and you're just now learning that your student is not on track to be promoted to the next grade.
Right.
Yeah.
And that goes back to like what I feel like is a common thread throughout a lot of the podcasts that we're doing, right? Establishing like that home to school connection, right? That village. If a third grader is struggling, for example, at this time of year, and a parent has not heard from the teacher as to their progress, like third grade is a mandatory retention grade. So this is where, like, if it hasn't happened before, okay, parents get busy. We get it. Like it is a lot. Life be lifing. But we need to make sure we have that communication with our parents. And I also wonder how much like our community really knows about retention and matriculation and graduation.
So I guess my question, Kamilah, would be, can we talk about that a little bit more, right? Because it may look like, I feel like there have been situations maybe where like it looks like my student is doing well in class, like maybe they're getting all A's or all S's, whatever that looks like. But then I know standardizing testing like plays a part into that as well, right? So what does that look like for some of our parents?
Yeah, that's a good question. So in Florida, we have the FAST test, right? Every grade level takes it. In K2, it's the STAR reading or STAR early literacy test, but third grade and up, they take the FAST assessment in ELA, in math, and then fifth grade and above, they have like science and stuff. Starting at third grade, this is where it starts to really count, if you will, for what's to happen the following year. In third grade, if the students receive a 3, then that means they're solid, they pass, they move to the fourth grade. If they receive a 2, that means that they did score a little bit lower. However, they can still move to the fourth grade. However, if they do not score at least a level 2, then they cannot be promoted to fourth grade. And I think that's a big thing, because if, it's essentially coming down to one test on one day that is determining this. But it is a culmination of what the students are learning throughout the years with all of the Florida benchmarks. I mean, all of the year with the Florida benchmarks. So if my child is getting straight A's on everything for a myriad of reasons, right? Maybe it's homework is counting heaviest. Maybe it's like they're getting a lot of help at school for their classwork. Maybe they have like different accommodations necessary for whatever the testing is this. But if on the day of the test they score level 1, then they don't go to the next grade. So if they don't score at least a level 2 in PM3, right? This is the last test of that FAST test throughout the year, then doesn't matter how many straight A's they got. They cannot go to the fourth grade. Then now the teacher needs to come into what they call good cause. And in third grade, the general good cause is the third grade portfolio. One of the general good cause requirements is the portfolio, where throughout the year, the teacher has to collect state approved evidences based on the benchmarks. Has to be 50-50 reading, prose, and poetry or informational text. And they have to have at least 8 pieces of evidence for each of the benchmarks. And I believe there are 13 of them. 8 pieces of evidence that average to at least 70% success rate. And that should be collected throughout the year. So should be easy. However, if there's no parent communication, if there's no portfolio evidence is being gathered throughout the year, then now at this time of year, it is a tremendous task. Now, a mandatory retention letter has to go home to parents. Can you imagine hearing about this or receiving this retention letter when I haven't heard from my teacher, my kid's teacher all year, but now I hear my kid is probably not going to graduate or matriculate to fourth grade and they have to go to a summer reading camp? That's wild, right? But then also, where are they in the collection of this evidence, right? Because if it's a teacher created assessment, The principal has to sign off on it. It has to be a state approved. It has to meet the rigor of the benchmarks, and it has like set requirements. And then if they, like, for example, are in Orange County, they have not been taking the unit assessments that we provide as the district, then now what do? Now they have no evidence. We're a month away from the end of school. What happens now?
Yeah. I feel like I'm hearing two things. Like, if you are a parent and your child is going into the third grade and you have any amount of concern about their performance, that you should probably go into the year asking the questions, making sure you're having the conversations with the teacher, and that the teacher is collecting evidence of how your child is performing throughout the year. Correct. I also feel like for the teacher, please keep your receipts, baby, because you know when these kids come in, you know who's on track and who's not. You saw the scores the year before, like keep the receipts. But I feel like once it gets to the evidence part, that's probably really hard to like gather, improve. And it sounds like a lot of work.
It is a lot of work if you wait until this time to start putting things together, because it's a lot of, the paper trail that has to be established, everybody that has to sign off on it, everybody that needs to be communicated to, the count for who is going to have to come to the summer reading camp. What if a parent can't bring them to summer reading camp? What if their school doesn't offer summer reading camp and they have to take them across town to the nearest other school? How are they going to get there? It's really a whole thing, but I feel like it can really be avoided, whether you have concerns about your kid or not. Just keeping in contact with the teacher, the students parents have to be very involved, and the students' teachers have to want to involve the parents, because I mean.
So we got two things to say on that. Just one, if like nobody should be waiting until PM3 to then see like, oh, you aren't making progress, right? Because we do this test multiple times during the school year. And so like as the teacher, being able to share that information, but also as the parent, like knowing where to find that information. It should be like easily accessible to you, whether that's through your student database. And in Seminole County, it's like through Skyward, so we can go on and see that. And then asking those follow-up questions about like, what does this mean, right? Because now I've got the information, but then being comfortable enough to reach out to the teacher and say, hey, like, I see what this score is. Like, what does this score mean as far as my student and their achievement levels? So that's one piece. And then I want to say for like our older kids too, although it is not mandatory retention, it does affect the classes that they're able to choose in high school and in middle school. So I have middle schoolers that did not score well on their past FAST assessments. So now they have an intensive reading course and an ELA course. They have an intensive math course and a math class. So that means they don't have electives. And so at a school that has like a lot of different electives, now you're not able to take those like fun classes, whether it's like band or PE or art, any of those sorts of things, because you have to then do these intensive classes to help you try to like fill those gaps so that you're able to score on this test later.
Yeah. And but to that point, Jania, like filling the gaps in middle school and in high school, the reading gaps that were established in elementary school, it is like trying to fill a gun-riddled boat with just little pieces of paper over the situations. Like it's not
literally trying to dry the ocean. Like just trying to dry the ocean. Like it's not happening. Yeah.
That was my question. Really like part of our audience is parents with kids who are like younger than third grade, right? And both of my kids are younger than third grade. So as a mom of a 3-year-old and a first grader, like what do I need to be doing now to make sure that when my kid gets to third grade, I'm not sweating bullets hoping that they pass?
Yeah. Well, part of that is like what we talk about all the time, like those incidental academic moments. Talk to your kids, expose them to text, read, have those conversations. Like, and it can be just as simple. In our last episode, we talked about like, for me, it's just conversation, right? Like make you think a little bit extra. right? Not being plopped down in front of the computer or the TV or the Switch
Oh my
all
God.
day.
The
But if you are going to use technology, right, use it in a meaningful way. Like some of those sites like Khan Academy, readtheory.org, which is geared towards your older kids, also like all of these different things that we can help fill in those gaps for them or give them a strong foundation before the gaps need to be filled.
That's fair, but I also want to acknowledge that it's not easy. So like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we came off spring break not too long ago and our family went on a road trip. So over the course of the week, you know, we were in Virginia, we were in Charlotte. We spent a lot of time in the car, probably like 20 hours in the car, right? And so my son had his tablet, and what is easiest for me to do is for him to be on that tablet so I can get these naps in. But what I quickly, which I knew about him before, but I was reminded of on this road trip, is how the technology impacts like their brain. I don't know all the scientific words for it. The executive functioning, right? So like being able to regulate your emotions and not being like immediately triggered by things. So when he's on his tablet for more than like 30 minutes at a time, I am literally parenting a different child. And it's a struggle because it's like, okay, what is behavioral and what is a response to the fact that you've had your face in this tablet, no matter what you're playing. If you're on Khan Academy or you're on a racing car, like you're still having that digital interaction that at that age, I don't know if it's his age or his personality or a combination of both, but he can't handle it. So like one of the things that we had in the car was this game. It's called Guess in 10. And so you pull a card and it has an animal in it. And then you have to guess like the other, what animal is on the other person's card. And so like just little card games and stuff I found were helpful for us when we were in the car, and he actually liked it. My 1-year-old, well, 2-year-old, he was playing too. So like he'd have his card and we'd be like, okay, I'm trying to make it easy for him. So I'm like, what sound does your animal make to like get him to make the sound so other people can guess? And he's like, lion. No, friend, that's not the sound. That's the animal. But at least he was like in it and engaged
Right.
and whatnot. So I felt like that was something that worked for both of them, and that gave us like a little break. So like even if you don't have the cards, like think of an animal and make people give them clues or make them guess like what it is. But just wanted to throw that out there because that was a good strategy for us when the tablet time was just causing a lot of problems.
That's a nod back to the old school, like let's play I Spy.
Right. Something.
Right? What do you spy with your little eye? Come on. You know, things that start with the letter S. Boom.
Yeah.
Biological awareness.
So we talked about kind of like where our kids might be at, moving on, being retained. So what's important to you as you consider summer plans for your kids?
Definitely like them being engaged in community, but also where they're going to be enriched to a certain extent as well, right? Like I don't want them to be in school year round. But I also want like there to be activities that you're doing in whatever summer camp you are that is going to get you some of that learning, whether it's going to the zoo. Like, no, you're not going to have to take a test on it or write a paper about it, but you're being exposed to some of those concepts, right? Where you can go to the zoo and you can critically think about what does the giraffe eat or any of those kind of things. And so I want them to be in community. I want them not to isolate, because I think that's easy to do during the summer too, kind of just you're with me all the time, and I don't want that either. But I also want there to be some sort of like enrichment as well. Our boys will go to our community center here in Sanford for most of the day. And so that'll be fun because they're with like their friends. They're actually able to go together. So like you said, they're the biggest like split or spread around age, but they'll go together. So that'll be really nice for them. I know Austin's really excited about like being in the same building as his brother. Is his brother excited about that? No. Do I care? No. You're going. But yeah, so they'll be in the same space, but still be able to be like with their peers. So that'll be really neat. And then I like look at, different there's a list of different things that are happening with like UCF, the University of Central Florida. And so is there something that I can take you to there that it's either free or low cost? Are there things happening at the Science Center? Really kind of like reaching out to the different community organizations to see what is happening this summer. And a lot of those like promotions are going on like now, right? So you'll see different things come out. That's how I know that they're going to the community center for the summer, is because that's already started. Like they're already building their list in those pieces. So looking at your city, like recreation, looking at UCF, looking at any of those organizations that are close to you, the Boys and Girls Club, that's always an opportunity for this summer. I know their schedule looks a little bit different, or their intake looks a little bit different from the summer. So even if you weren't there during the whole school year, that might be something that you can do during the summer. But I want them to be doing things that are not just sitting on the couch. While there is a place for sitting on the couch and resting, I don't want that to be like what you do for 2 straight months, because it'll drive me crazy.
Yeah. And something that we do also is a lot of the public schools, their usual after school program extends throughout summers, and it's open to the community. I like to put Lucas in that because when he was 4, going into a new school, transitioning from VPK at a daycare into like the public school system, I wanted people to get to know him to get to know his surroundings and kind of become acclimated to where he's going to be. But then also I like it because a lot of them provide lunch and like a supper snack. They call it supper. They go on field trips every single week. They have arts and crafts, like themed weeks where like they're creating different things. They have like water days. They have technology time. They have Wheels Up Wednesday where like they're out riding bikes or skateboards or whatever wheels the kids bring in. But there's like an active learning piece to it while the kids are having fun, which I really like. And to piggyback on what you were mentioning, Jania, like going to the zoo, things like that. DeShawn, you mentioned like, your kids are younger. So what do you do with like the younger kids? Taking them, and you can even establish reading behavior with, oh, look at this, the monkeys here, and reading the little plaque and having them watch you. Use your fingers. Something as simple as that to like track the words across. You're starting to establish that reading behavior. That can be done literally at any age. I do it with my 1-year-old, and when he reads, he definitely does this, turning the page. Those things it's starting to establish the reading behavior and the relationship with reading.
Yeah. So I wanted to go back because you said something.
Sorry, Jania.
Sorry. No, I was just going to say 2 things that I forgot to say was we do this thing in Seminole County called Kinder Camp. So Austin will do that this year. And I don't know if you do in Orange County too. I would imagine there's something similar.
It sounds familiar, but I'm not sure.
Oh, but it's only a week, and it's like the week before school starts that helps them get like acclimated to being in kindergarten. So Austin will go to the school. They will have like a regular school day for them, but it'll be him and all the kindergartners. So instead of going to the school with the kindergarten through 5th graders, like there is this week where he's able to go and like learn, and then the next week is school starts. So it's kind of like, oh, I've already been here. I feel like I belong here. It makes it a little bit smoother for everybody. So I think that's a really good one. And that's at no cost because that's the school that he's going to. So if you do have a kindergartner, we also did it at our middle school for our 6th graders. So it was only 1 day for them, but it was Falcon Academy where it's just the 6th graders are able to come. No cost. We feed them like a fancy lunch. It's not school lunch. So that like pulls them in, but also to get them comfortable with being on campus. So that hopefully makes the first day of school a lot smoother for them. And then summer break spots. So that happens all over Central Florida, where it is like free lunch for students. But a lot of times those are at libraries, right? So you could go to the library, do story time, do a craft, and then also get free lunch. We love going to those because it also just is that like social time, but also it's usually somewhere where they can learn something too and kind of just be outside and do something a little bit different, break up the day for our kids too.
Yeah, the library is a good place too. They have a full schedule of things that they do every single day, and it's all free. That was a great one.
And you should support our libraries.
I second it.
If you know, you know.
Especially now.
Right.
I also want to throw out the YMCA. So Cam did summer camp at the YMCA last year, and we really liked it. The weeks were themed. We saw somebody sent us a picture of him on the social media for the police department because they had come out to the summer camp and they were showing the kids the drones and stuff like that. So he was all like looking at the screen. So love the theme weeks, love the enrichment. They have, I think, a set time where the kids have to read every day, and swim lessons are included with your registration. So that was really good for us. Like he had swim lessons, but was like a reluctant swimmer. But by the end, they had to take a swim test every week. By the end, he like passed his swim test. He was confident. Now, homeboy can jump in the pool and I don't have to worry about anything. So that was definitely an added bonus. Little plug for the Y. And Page 15. So I have to shout out Page 15. Some of the Page 15, and it is a nonprofit. We love them. That really just like empowers like youth voice, the voice of young people through creative writing. And they have a writing camp that is wildly popular, happens every summer. There are scholarships available, but as soon as my child is old enough, he will be at the writing camp. They work with kids the way that I feel like kids should be worked with, right? Like just empowering them, elevating their voice, really helping kids like get in touch with like who they are, and then provide this opportunity for creative expression and publishing and public speaking because you're sharing your art and getting kids to think about their environment in all these really cool ways. So definitely would love for people to check out and support.
That makes me really happy because writing is unfortunately, very seldom taught because for the past 2-3 years now, writing hasn't counted in terms of school grades. So like it just like chips away at a piece of my heart every time a teacher's like, yeah, we don't teach writing. Okay. It's not like it's a skill they'll need for life or anything. So, and like, I know like the struggle students have, like now when they get to 4th, 5th grade, if they have not had the opportunity to write, to learn about writing, to build writing stamina, like the struggle is real. Like that's not something, while you learn to read, you have to learn to write. And the cognitive load that it takes for reading, you multiply that by 2, and that's what it takes for writing. And if they're not getting that practice, like, so shout out to Page 15 for real.
Yeah, for real. I was at youth church, volunteered at the youth church today, and we gave the kids like this activity, like which group can make the best TikTok around like evangelism or whatever the topic was. And this one girl was like, just put it in Chat GPT, like get a scripture, put it in Chat GPT. And I was like mad at her, but not mad at her, right? Like, I'm not mad at you, but also like, if there was no Chat GPT,
correct,
would you be able to come up with a creative video to accomplish anything? And that kind of like scared me a little bit. So it reminded me of something I was thinking about over break is if you're doing an activity with your kid, right? Like you're going to the zoo, you're making Play-Doh, you're doing a puzzle, you're in the backyard, I don't know, looking at the bugs, like whatever you're doing. Can we offer like 2 or 3 questions that can turn any activity into a learning activity? I know it's on the spot, but that's something that I've been thinking about. Like, what can I offer parents? Can I offer them like just a quick resource?
A quick resource? Just 2 questions?
Yep, 2 or 3 questions, right? So we're at the zoo. What are 2 or 3 questions or we're at the ice skating rink. We went ice skating during spring break. What are 2 or 3 questions that I could have used to turn that experience into a learning experience?
So I think for me, the first thing that comes up is, why is this venue, why is this place, this experience important? because then it's going to make them think about like, oh, the zoo is important because we're able to rescue animals here, and then we're able to come and learn about animals. Or, oh, the ice skating ring is important because it helps us be like physically active, and like, we don't have like ice or frozen lakes in Florida, so this is my chance to like be able to do that. So kind of why is this space important, or what value does it have, I think would be kind of neat to hear.
Yeah, I was going to say the why and the what ifs. Those like questions are open-ended. They fit everywhere with everything. It'll foster the creative piece where they can like, what if this whole ice skating rink melted and now it was water? What would happen? Right? Or that like the nonfiction piece of it, like, why is this important? Thinking, making that community connection and like real world experience. Like, we need this zoo because I don't know, otherwise the elephant's gonna run all amok and it's gonna be wild and crazy like Jumanji. Oh, and then just general the tell me why you think that. Right? Explain. Right? Why, what if, explain.
I love that. And I think that that's something that is important to share and talk about as we go into the summer, because if your child is performing as you would want them to, like, how do you make sure during the summer they keep that mental stamina and they don't go into the next school year having lost some of the learning that they had and then have to play catch up and trying to like learn new things. So I think they call it the summer slide, but I think that those thinking questions, the why, the what if, the explain, why is this important here? What did you think before you got here versus what you think now? Like, I think those are things that we can easily just talk about in order to like help their brains keep going.
Yeah. And I think because backing it up to what we were talking about before, what if my child is behind and now they're facing retention, right? They're not going to be promoted to the next grade. Then what does my summer look like, right? Doesn't mean it has to be like kill dead work, but those same questions, right? Added in with, let's just read 30 minutes a day. That's it. If depending on the type of stamina, the age range of my child, then let's break it up. 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the night, right? If they can handle the longer periods, let's do it. Me reading to them reading to me. Let's read. And that's going to be a huge thing. And so this is where also the communication comes, because if I'm reading to them, yes, it can be on my level and I can read a little bit more, a little differently with them. But if they're reading to me, let me make sure that I talk to my child's teacher and then I get accurate levels so that I'm not giving them War and Peace when all they can read is See Spot Run.
Yeah. You know what else I thought about too is captions. Like,
yes,
turning on captions on the TV, I think is probably another like easy go-to that
it
can
is
help.
huge. And that's good for your ELL students also, your students who are just acquiring the language, your kids who are acquiring from whatever language they are coming from. They need to learn English because everything's to the standard in English in Florida. So they have to learn it. That's a great way to do it. But also, like, Lucas learned a lot that way. And he would start really paying attention. He'd be like, oh, is that how you spell that word? Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I think what I liked about this episode is that we shared so many resources, through our conversation, just pulling it out of each other. And I can't wait to put them on our social media and stuff like that for parents, because I think it really is up to us to create a culture of education in our house, especially what's happening now with like dismantling the Department of Education, education power going back to the state. So it might be different from state to state, community to community, school to school. And I think the only thing you can really count on is what you do in your house. And I think that, the conversation that we shared today is valuable in helping parents kind of think about like, what's your style in creating a culture of education in your house? Because it's going to look different for everybody. But I think it's important that we like step up and make it happen.
Yeah. So can I propose a little viewer homework?
Please
if
do.
you will, right? First step, talk to your kids' teachers, right? Help to like find out exactly where they are, and then start thinking about like the things that you do on a daily basis that you can infuse those 3 questions that we talked about, just in general, right? Reading and questioning. Biggest eye-opening change will happen when some of this starts getting implemented. So just think about that, and then share with us, how is it working in your household, especially if you have a 2-year-old, a middle schooler, and even a high schooler. I mean, the range is going to be rangy.
Yeah, I love that. And I can't wait to share too. I'm going to try it, beef it up a little bit. All right. Well, thanks for watching. Please comment, like. Can I just say heavy on the comment though? Because like you just brought it up, Kamilah, but I think one of the things we're really trying to do is build a community with this, to where like we don't have all the answers, but collectively we have the answers. So how can we get like educators to share, and parents to share, and community educators to share? That way we can all together create like this resource bank of how we can help support our kids, you know, academically and developmentally. So heavy on the comment, like, share, subscribe, but heavy on the comment.
Yeah.
Till next time.
Comment.
Bye.